All right, welcome to the Premier League wrap for week four. We'll just get straight into it. Manchester United win 1-0 at Southampton thanks to a goal from Bruno Fernandes. This was the big test for Manchester United, given the fact that, look, they started so shakily towards the season. We probably all thought they were going to get ran off the pitch last week against Liverpool. They came out, put one of their best performances in years, beat Liverpool 2-1, but it's a derby game. They're under huge pressure. They're kind of playing with relatively house money because everyone expects them to get, Liverpool is a team that beat them 9-0 on aggregate over the last two games of last season. But this is more of a test of the regular run of the mill test for them at St Mary's, 12:30 kickoff. The first half was really underwhelming, not a great game by any stretch. But ultimately, and even the second half, not too much better. But the big difference in this is Bruno Fernandes' goal. Fernandes is a player that he started incredibly well through his first couple of seasons at Manchester United. When Ronaldo came into the team, they had that graphic during the game with the stats with and without Ronaldo, and it is night and day. I don't know what is up there, whether it's a psychological thing, whether it's an actual style of play thing, but he's clearly is better. When I suppose he's the talisman and he's the main figure of the team. And if you look at Fernandez over the last couple of seasons, his standout season is a season where he got eight. Maybe was it 2 years ago? He had 18 goals and he had 9 assists, but half the goals were from penalties. Now, even at that, it's still 9-9, and that's probably a benchmark for where the top end midfielders are. Any midfielder in the Premier League that can get over 10 goals and 10 assists is generally right up there, top caliber. And that's probably where Fernandez has been over the last couple of years. He's somewhere that is, I think, maybe last year he got 6 goals and 8 assists. That's just off the top of my head, but he's going to be in that range. And for people that think he has gone off the boil or he's just kind of like his stats are padded by penalties, that goal was a reminder of like the skill that he has. Like that is not an easy finish. A ball whipped across from Dallo across the box, and he takes it with the instep of his right foot as it's at the back post, at the left post. So to run onto that and bury it into the bottom left is is why he's a Premier League player, why he's a top end Premier League player, because he's capable of just that. And you can probably go into an even further insight as to why has that been, and it probably just as much have a car crash as United has been over the last season, where he hasn't looked himself and he hasn't looked like the barnstorming player he was when he first came into the team. But when he produces a goal like that, it reminds you of the quality that exists and that is there. And he's going to be important for United. But also in the last couple of years, he's been held up as a talisman. And I think this job has been made a little bit easier by Ericsson. He was someone that I was watching closely during this game, and he is going to be playing a deeper lying role this year. But you can just see the instant difference he makes as opposed to having McTominay and Fred there. Christian Eriksen's just cool on the ball. He's calm. He doesn't panic. He's someone that looks like he's a veteran player. We'll see how long his legs can hold up, and maybe he hasn't got caught out yet, from my memory, from defensively. We'll see what that side of his game is like when he's in a probably more condensed midfield. But just on the ball, interlinking with play, he probably should have scored a goal as well in this game. He blazed one over the bar from relatively close range. So it's a good win for United, but this is a team that now could look radically different in the next week or so, because instead of McTominay or Fred, there's a good chance we're going to have Casemiro starting in there. And we're probably going to see either Rashford or Martial up top, Sancho on one wing, and now Anthony coming in from Ajax on another. So this is what was needed at Old Trafford. They needed a clear out of probably 8 to 10 players. They've got five in now. Martinez had a great game. And I kind of put this on my Twitter earlier, but like some of the football punditry is just so like lazy. And I think often you see ex-players they ride this. If you think about a football player and that has been a professional player since 19 or 20, much of their identity and much of the social situations that they've been in, they're known as a football player. So they give their opinion, and their opinion is worth more weight than than the opinion of others, and the opinion of someone like myself making a YouTube video. But often Footballers are great and ex-players are great for the like for insight prime example like the mentality for instance in Richarlison doing those keepy uppies in the Forest game, and Brennan Johnson coming in and cleaning them out, like that's great because you can get an ex-player's opinion on that because it's like, well, is it showboating, is it over the top, would that rile you up if you're 2-0 down with 6 minutes to go, that kind of stuff. But just to say Martinez is short and picking him because he's short, like if you just look at his aerial duels, he's won like 83% this season so far and 70% last season for a guy that's 5'9". So what's it really matter if he's 5'9", if he's going to be winning these duels, if he's got better timing and he's got better anticipation, which is what the majority of that what that level of football is. Granted, the goals that they conceded against Brentford, probably there was one I think at the back post where someone, I think Ben Mee might have come in over him from 3 or 4 yards out and headed it in. Stuff like that, maybe you're going to lose on, but for the majority of the game, he looked really good. Like he's got bite in him, he's tenacious, he doesn't give up on challenges, he goes out to people, and he plays with so much more confidence than what you've seen from Maguire over the last 12 months. And regardless of all the mistakes that Maguire's made, he looks like someone that is kind of carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Where Martinez just doesn't, you just don't get that I suppose vibe from him at all. He reminds me a lot of Gabby Heinze, the old United defender from the Fergie years, from 2003, 2004 range. Another Argentinian, not the biggest guy in the world, but just bit between his teeth and I suppose hell for leather. So on the Southampton side of things, actually really desperately unlucky not to get a penalty in this game. I think that ball handled like Scott McTominay's arm at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, one of those ones where it's kind of pinballed around, but it like definitely hits his hand, and you've seen those type of penalties given before. The other guy that really stood out for me though was their centre back, Bella Kotchap. 20 years old, strong as an ox. There's a couple of times where balls were going towards the end line, and this guy was just like holding off Rashford, holding off Sancho, couldn't get around him. He looks like he could be a good player, and it's a position that Southampton have actually done quite well in over the years, with like Jose Font, and then obviously there was notable one being Virgil van Dijk. But he looks like he could be a player for them. But it's just hard to tell what this Southampton team is going to be like. It's like I could see Ralph Hasenhüttl getting sacked in the next couple of months. I could see them being a relatively solid team as well. Got James Ward-Prowse, but a lot seems to go through him. There's even times where the ball gets to the wing and they cut it back to Ward-Prowse, and they're really relying on his set piece delivery, but also his delivery from general play and trying to, in terms of getting the ball into the box. Aribo looks decent, but we'll see if he can. I'm just I'm kind of startled by the goal that he got in pre-season, which was magical, and it's kind of like, okay, you've seen that, but can he produce that? Because they're going to need a couple of these players to start, not just be Che Adams, who's got 4 goals, I think, in his first 3 games this season. He was held relatively quiet on the weekend, but it seems like a lot is going to go through him. But they're hard team to read this early on in the season, Southampton. My general feeling is they'll probably be around 14th, 15th, 16th, somewhere around them. But we'll wait and see. I haven't seen too much from them so far that's going to make me wildly change that prediction. The next game of the day, if we get to the 3 o'clocks, Chelsea Leicester City. Chelsea actually win this game 2-1 despite a red card from Conor Gallagher. I really liked Gallagher last season for Crystal Palace, but these were two kind of needless yellow cards, especially the one that he got against Harvey Barnes. He's just like, apparently, like Chelsea, Leicester were on that break, 70, 80 yards from goal, and he just like clips him needlessly. But in saying that, the goals that Chelsea got, particularly the Sterling goal, okay, quite fortunate, takes a rather big deflection. But I mean, it's Chelsea didn't really look like a team that got overly overwhelmed, despite being down 2-1. And the goal for Sterling on the second one, the ball from Reece James was great, blaze across goal. But the patience that they have to move the ball, I think there might have been 11 or 12 passes in the build up to that. Um, so it's really hard to tell with Chelsea. I mean, like I watched them 2 weeks ago against Spurs. I thought they were the better team in that game, and the way they performed, despite ultimately not winning that game, it calmed some of the worries you had about them preseason. Then last week you're like, what is going on here? This is a disaster. 3-0 against Leeds and utterly played off the park. And then in this, they come out where with a win, and Tuchel has a really, as I was trying to kind of allude on last week, they have a really defined style of play. when they're pressed, maybe you can give them some difficulties, but a lot of the movement, a lot of the patience, and particularly how they interlink with their wing backs, who are probably among the best in the league. They're again another hard team to read, but we'll probably need more of a sample size before we think, is there signs of panic with this Chelsea team? Is there reasons to be concerned, or is it just kind of early part of the season and are they still kind of figuring things out? Someone that has to figure things out pretty quickly, though, is going to be Brendan Rodgers. They are bottom of the table as things stand. I look, they've got Harvey Barnes back. He scored great goal, by the way. Actually, 1-2 with Vardy, and he buries it in on the left. He also had a header that was ruled out, I think, for a foul in the build-up. Vardy also rounded the keeper in this and kind of put a ball into the side net. And so they are kind of created the chances. Rodgers are probably under a bit of pressure just because simply they're bottom of the league. We'll see. This is going to be the pivotal part of their season now. They've let Wesley Fofana go to Chelsea. By the looks of things, I think that's a great move on their part. Wesley Fofana is good, but this is a guy they bought for 30 million. What season and a half ago, 2 seasons? He's had a major leg break, and Chelsea have just spent 75 million. I think he's good, but I also see him get bullied against Arsenal and Gabby Jesus. So I don't know. We'll see on that. It seems like an awful lot of money. I think Leicester could, if they don't get someone last minute, they have kind of like Soyuncu, Vestergaard, Johnny Evans, and Marty. They have a couple of players there that they can rotate and wield around, even if they don't get someone of real note of quality with the money they've just received from Fofana. I'm not going to panic with them yet, but I think the fans might have a differing opinion. Because they are conceding goals. But they've also played Chelsea and Arsenal through the first what like two of the first 3 games of the season. So, and they're two of the better teams in the league. So maybe a bit overblown, but I wouldn't be worrying on Leicester just yet. To the next game of the day, we'll go with Liverpool Bournemouth. There's not really a whole lot to discuss here, just simply due to the fact that like it's a 9-0 win. What else can you say? You can't really say, other than the fact that like Liverpool get their first win this season. They probably got a rocket up the arse by Klopp after what drawing, not winning against Fulham, Palace, or United, and playing probably one of their worst games of the Klopp era in the United game. They come out like a house on fire here. It's 5-0 at halftime. Some sensational goals. Harvey Elliott, Robert Firmino gets like two goals, 3 assists. People get Trent getting an absolute screamer. Like it's all sides and all guns blazing. But I'm not really gonna spend too talking about it because Bournemouth were horrible, and like, even that one of Firmino's goals bundled by the keeper. Henderson and Firmino both standing there. It was just a team like when you're down 5-0 at half time, what do you even do? Like they were lucky not to get the Premier League record of, I think 10-0 would have been the record. And Mo Salah not getting involved. That is literally like the odds of getting struck by lightning. Liverpool winning by 9-0 and him not getting involved, and even he blazed the chance over the bar. For Bournemouth, this is probably a common help me or come and save me play from Scott Parker. There's been discontent with the Bournemouth board to start the season, and especially when you look at the amount of players that Forest are signing. They've signed like 19. Um, this is the thing with the championship, and it's really why it's hard to tell. And even the preseason prediction videos I did, where you're looking at like who's going to get relegated, who can make the jump, who can stay up. It's such a big jump from the Championship to the Premier League, and we see it over and over again with the Norwiches and Fulham. It actually look quite good to start this season. The usual like Watford, West Brom. There's these like legion of 5 or 6 teams that are just too good for the Championship. We could consistently relegated in the Premier League, and it's simply because of the level of talent in the difference. The Premier League being a globalized league where teams like you get lower level Premier League teams that are attracting some of the top talent. So it's a money ball game. It's where you spend your money, how much, and ultimately who you bring in. Because as I said, we've seen Fulham also spend a huge amount of money a couple of years ago, and they got relegated just as easy. So but it's not going to get any easier for them. We're going to have Wolves, who, even though a slow start, they're one of the better teams in the league next week. So I like, and it's more of a confidence and morale thing. It's hard not to see their heads being on the floor after this week. So yeah, best of luck to Bournemouth and Scott Parker. But we probably will just go to. I was gonna go to the Wolves game, but that was actually on the Sunday. We'll go to Brighton Leeds. Brighton are fourth in the table now. And Pascal Gross has always actually been a decent player for the last couple of years, but he started this season really well taking goal in this game. And also he got a great assist last week for a Trossard just ball around the corner. Got clattered in the as a result. But Brighton and Graham Potter look like they're starting to roll and they're starting to motor and they're playing like a Leeds team that obviously just dismantled Chelsea. Solly March, it could have been more as well. Solly March had some good chances as well in this. Leeds, we'll see if they get Bamford back this week for the midweek games. He's been injured so much though. It's kind of like, can he get back to that season before last, where I think he might have got over 15 goals. So that is the big one for them. But Jesse Marsh said it well in the interview after the game. Like, Brighton are a good side, and there's no shame in losing to them home. Obviously, they'd be looking for a better result given the probably high they were riding after the Chelsea result last weekend. But yeah, I same team for Leeds as they usually go with. But I think you probably realistically, I just don't rate Dan James. I think they'll be better served when they Bamford up top, Rodrigo playing in that 10 role behind, and I'd probably move Aronson to one wing and then obviously Harrison the other. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Leeds can cook up for us this week. Elsewhere around the grounds, do we have many more 3 p.m.s there? Ba. Oh yeah, City Palace. Um, it, City are just like amazing. Like and it's really hard to see them not win the league, despite Arsenal's obviously good start. It's like how many times have we just seen them go 2-0 down in some of these games now? Like West Ham last season, Villa at the back end of last season when they win the league. Today, or sorry, at the weekend when they go 2-0 down to Palace. And it's the exact type of fortune that you need at the Etihad, an own goal off like a set piece, and then a header from a corner, and they get a 2-0, and it could have even been 3 with one of Ederson's. I suppose he had a rollout that got blocked by Edward, and they ruled it out. But like, yeah, it just shows you how quickly this team can turn it on. Even Newcastle, sorry, last week, like they can run up goals in a very quick way, and it, all these questions about how Haaland will fit, how is he going to, and I did get the kind of not the maybe the criticisms, but at least the concern of there's a game there where he got 8 touches, and 2 of them I think were kickoffs against Bournemouth in a 4-0 win. And you're like, okay, he's actually not going to be like this, especially from what they went last season, where they have a false nine and they've a lot of passes, build up, touches. A number 9 that gets on the ball, moves, comes, drops deep, and it allows like a much more flowing system where Haaland is just like, give me the ball, feed me the ball, and you can see that with the header he got. You can see that with one of the goals he got with through a through ball. And he's got 6 goals in like 4 games. Like this guy is going to sleepwalk his way to 30 goals. Barring injury, it's probably the one concern over the last couple of years is that I don't think in the 3 years he had at Dortmund he played over 30 league games. Generally seemed 2 of the seasons there were about 25, 26. So, but even at that, that's probably what a regular starter in the City team plays anyway, given how much rotation they have. So yeah, he looks every bit of the thoroughbred that he's been billed as. And he's like 21. This could be like the next decade of Erling Haaland dominating because realistically, regardless of that, City are actually a bit light on the bench. There's a bunch of academy players. Like they only really had Alvarez and Gundogan on the bench, but even with that, they're gonna have Grealish that'll come back. They've Foden, they've Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri. Like everything around that number 9 position is just like top quality. Um, but I just hope we'll get to them probably a bit soon in this video, but I hope Arsenal or even if Liverpool or somebody can put a Spurs a fight up to them because as good as they are, I just don't want the season to become like a couple of years ago where they're like up by 19 points or something crazy because at this point in time, it looks like it could be another one of those seasons. The way they, and especially when they're not losing or dropping these type of games, when a lower level team in the league takes a 2-0 lead on them. When that's the case, and they're coming back and scrapping out from 2 goals behind against Newcastle, 2 goals behind against Palace to win 4-2. Um, it doesn't make it great for the neutral, but it's at the same time, like this is Guardiola has once again he's probably mastered football. Um, is there any more 3 p.m.s? I think am I forgetting them, or can I go on to the actual Arsenal game? Oh yeah, Brentford Everton. There's always that one that you're just like, oh, bit of a nothing game, but Everton are shaky. Like Brentford probably should have won this game. They did scrap a 1-all equalizer in the 84th minute, but they also hit the bar twice in this, particularly through Tony, and then Wissa blasted one over. Brentford, pretty much the same as last season. Obviously, they're missing Ericsson, but Thomas Frank seems like a very good coach, and they will create chances and they will score goals, as we've already seen from them through this season. Defensively, I don't know how solid they're there because they do look like they could leak as much, but it's kind of that second season syndrome where you probably need a couple seasons in the league where you keep getting that Premier League TV money before they can invest in properly improving that squad. Um, but Everton have properly invested huge amounts of money in their squad, and it looks like Anthony Gordon, who's been linked with Chelsea, maybe by the time this video comes out, he might have already gone. But for me, Everton have to keep this guy. Like he's their best player. The ball comes in over the top, one touch, kind of has the ball at the right pace, takes it far enough away from the defender, but not close enough for the keeper to come out and get it. Slots it into the corner. Like Everton are going to struggle probably anyway. Like this, we'll see how long Lampard lasts. Um, but it's they obviously need Calvert-Lewin back. They'll have Neil Maupay in. We'll see if having a proper number 9 gives them any sort of more of a balance. Um, but yeah, I look, long season probably for both of these two teams. Two teams that are probably going to finish around 14th, 15th. But for me, Everton just have to keep on the board. And I know that 60 million is a huge amount for someone to turn down for probably a player of his caliber, and also a bit bewildering from Chelsea too. I mean, they're letting Callum Hudson-Odoi go to Bayer Leverkusen. Just like Gordon scored in the weekend, I think he's a promising talent, but is he any more promising than like Hudson-Odoi? And is he that much more promising that you'd be willing to let Hudson-Odoi go on loan and bring this guy in for 60 million? I'm not so sure. But look, more. Uh, it's a very tricky one because usually in that situation I'd take the fee, but given Everton's lack of real genuine quality, I think they have to keep it because ultimately it's one of those. Is like a 60 million worth it? Yes. Is losing 120, 140 million, whatever the minimum is for the TV league rights, as opposed to getting relegated. Like, yeah, in my opinion, keep tell Chelsea to keep their 60 because that 140 is a lot more valuable to you in the long run, particularly for a club that is looking at a new stadium as well. On to the half five, top of the league, Arsenal. Um, this has probably been a bit of a talking point, and another weird one. Who cares if they celebrate? Like Richard Keys and the likes. Like I don't know. Like Richard Keys, Graham Souness, there's a caliber of pundit that is like your dad, like the old fella at the pub, and that's even kind of sometimes disrespectful to the old fellas at the pub. Like sometimes they can come up with more kind of cogent answers. Like this isn't the Arsenal of Arsene Wenger. Like Arsene Wenger's gone like 5 or 6 years, and also when Arsene Wenger was, for a bit of context, Richard Keys was like, Arsenal wouldn't be doing this under Arsene Wenger in their heyday, but they're not in their heyday. And then furthermore, you've had the rise of Spurs and Manchester City obviously coming from nowhere. So it's not like it was when Wenger was battling Fergie, when there was realistically only 2 or 3 really teams of capable of winning the title. Then there's like 5, 6 now. Um, so yeah, but I mean, on the pitch, Arsenal are looking good. Like they're properly cooking here. Odegaard coming on leaps. They've obviously given the captaincy, but some of the balls he pings out. And what they've even done with Xhaka, like even his revival. But generally speaking, like that front three of Jesus, you got Martinelli and Saka on the sides, Odegaard in the hold. They'll obviously get Thomas Partey wasn't playing in this game. We'll see if they add Yuri Tielemans even before this window closes. But even with Xhaka and El Neni, and then in the back four, like it's Arsenal. I don't know if I'm ready to go with title contenders just because let me see what they have when they play like a top six team. But I mean, in saying that, I think they've scored 11 and conceded three. So we were talks pre like because obviously given how they missed out on last season on the Champions League, you were kind of looking at this season with the additions they made in Jesus and Zinchenko as a definite they've improved, but I didn't think they'd improve by this much. It's one of those I'm not quite ready yet to say title contenders, but like if they can do two more games of this, if they come out and spark Villa during the week, at some point you are going to have to admit that they are title contenders. But we're not just there yet. Fulham valiant effort, but like as a lot, and it's not the it's not the most elaborate point in the world to bring up, but this team is going to be heavily reliant on Alexander Mitrovic. I mean, he gets the goal in this. He's just a ball. Like tussles Gabriel off the ball and then just slots it into the left. But as a team and like a core unit, I mean, you're kind of thinking how far can you go with Dequadora, Reed, and Cabano? Palhinha is a real player, and as a unit, they're feisty Fulham. Like they're in these games, um, and they probably with the goals that Arsenal got, like they probably were quite fortunate as well. Odegaard deflection, and a scrappy Gabriel goal from a set piece, that kind of bundles around the box. So like, yeah, I think Fulham can take pride in the performance that they give. And what is it? Even though they lose here, it's a good start to the season for them. Because it's something they haven't gone as mad as far as they did that a couple of years ago, and they still got relegated. But especially, it looks like getting Marcus Silva in there, not Scott Parker, was probably the good call for the club, especially when you're seeing comparatively how the results went for Bournemouth and Fulham, given the fact they were playing top four teams. So yeah, we'll see again another one. We'll see how they go during the week. The Sunday's games, Wolves and Newcastle. Bruno Lage said he wasn't worried. Wolves relatively slow start to the season, and even though it's a one-all draw here, he probably still shouldn't be worried. They lose to Tottenham last week 1-0. They take a 1-0 goal in this 1-0 lead rather in this game through Ruben Neves goal. Absolute cracker from outside the box. And it equally is a good equaliser for Alan St. Max. I have these two teams probably roughly around the same place. These are two teams that will be battling for top half finishes, despite where Wolves' current situation is at the moment. They've added some good players in Gonzalo Guedes. They obviously got Jimenez back. He'll probably be leading the line from here on out. They'll have Podence drops to the bench. They still have Pedro Neto there. They've got Nunes and Matinho in there. I'm not worried about Wolves. And Newcastle, like St. Maximin's really good. We'll see how Isaac goes on, the new player they've brought in from Real Sociedad. Another one, I think he got 17 goals in La Liga 2 seasons ago, but he got 6 goals last season in like 30 odd games. I wouldn't have been paying 70 million for that and be a bit concerned about that. But given the fact that Cally Wilson is so injury prone, which is just so sad because he's such a fantastic player. Like this guy'd be backing up Harry Kane for England if he could play anywhere near 30 games. He just never can. He's completely proven to be made of Weetabix. And Chris Wood was almost like a I don't know, it was like a Godfather type signing in the fact that like we're going to sign Chris Wood because I think there was like the January transfer window. Yeah, it was. It was relatively soon after the takeover, but it also weakened one of Newcastle's main relegation rivals in Burnley. But he's clearly, especially with the ambitions that Newcastle are going to have, they're going to need a better quality player in than Chris Wood. We'll see if Isaac is that. Not convinced, but they did need something in there, given obviously those two predicaments of Wood and Wilson. So we'll see how that goes for them. But I would be apprehensive to say the least. The other the other 1-0 game, the other Sunday game rather. West Ham beat Aston Villa, two teams that are in trouble, and two teams that I would have had higher hopes for going into the season, given the talent of their squads. But it's a scrappy game. I mean, like Fornal's goal was similar to the Odegaard goal, similar to Sterling goals, big dirty deflection. Um, but I'm not convinced Villa know their best lineup. It's so schizophrenic with the types. So he keeps changing. Just keeps changing his formation, keep changing his lineups. I would have thought Leon Bailey, after how he performed against Palace, cracked the bar, came on, scored during the week in a cameo against Bolton. I would have thought maybe they go 4-3-3, play him on the wide right, but they don't. They've gone obviously with a 4-3-1-2 to play Coutinho, who starts over Buendia, Watkins and Ings up top. Um, but yeah, another loss, and it's not going to get any easier for Villa under it going to Arsenal next week. Like I did joke when Villa and Everton played each other, I think it was the open game of the season, that it was, that whoever loses this game would be a mad overreaction for it to be first manager sacked. But like both of them are under pressure, and Gerrard immensely so, given the type of the type of transfer spend that he's outlaid throughout the summer. Not great. You losing Diego Carlos, your new star centre back, without getting into the whole Ming situation. But that's not going to help when you're bringing him in and lose him. And Mings didn't even play that game. I mean, they brought in Callum Chambers as well. So, uh, but on the West Ham side of things, yeah, Moyes switches to a five at the back. He actually added Fornals and Rice and Susek into the middle there. Scamacca makes his first start over Antonio, relatively quiet after scoring against Viborg during the week. I thought that was coming. I think, look, if we're gonna go out and spend 35 million on a striker, Antonio clearly is not the answer. So we'll see. Scamacca got subbed off Antonio, but you've got to give him a couple of games there to kind of establish himself. But again, not going to get any easier for West Ham either, because they would have wanted to see more goals. They did get a win, which might give them some confidence. But this isn't a team that looks like the same team from last year. Now the good thing is for them is they're going to bring in Lucas Paqueta from Lyon. It looks like they spent a club. I can imagine it's a West Ham club record, but like 60 million euros to bring him in, attacking midfielder. So that should probably add to the quality that they have on that side, particularly up top and in the attacking areas where they need ultimately more goals. But again, Conte Spurs, who will actually segue into the last team of this weekend, who eke out a 2-0 win away to Forest. Uh, and this is why I kind of fear for West Ham against them, is that Spurs didn't play great on the weekend. Forest were really good in that game and had a proper crack off them. And I'd love to see like a newly promoted team like that properly go at a Big 16 rather than just what you see solo. They just do the two banks of four and double block. Um, yeah, Forest were right in this game, had some great chances. But in saying that, this is what ultimately separates the likes of the top six teams and the likes of Spurs and gets them out of these games and wins them these games, is that even though this game was quite even, it's the moments of quality that ultimately separate it. And you've seen that particularly on the first goal for Spurs. And sometimes it's why I always think you need to keep these things in perspective when y- you need to often remind yourself and appreciate just how good Premier League players are. That get there, because like and usually I get reminded about it like when some ball gets played 40, 50 yards and some winger takes it down. Even like for instance the Murray Gray goal in um against Brentford last week, where it's like a long ball over the top, but he takes it down completely in his stride for his touch. And the Murray Gray is not even like, he's not even the top 100 players in the league. Um, but the what I'm referring to here in this Spurs game is the Kulusevski assist to Kane for the first goal. Like Kulusevski just gets ahead of the defender at the halfway line. You're thinking, Jesus, it's going to be a big collision. He just beats him by a split second, takes a touch, starts to kind of curve his way from the left wing up the right, and you see Kane out of the corner of your eye when you're watching it live on TV. You can see Kane make this run, but you're wondering, does Kulusevski have the quality here and the talent to pick him out? Because you can see often in these types of plays, you can see it on TV, but when you're watching it from like your couch, you're not like sprinting full speed in game with your head looking at the ball and evading defenders as Kulusevski was. And he picks out a great pass to Kane. Kane takes one touch, good first touch, but And he's such a season finisher at this stage. He knows exactly what's going on in the situation, that he kind of reads it, and he knows the covering defender is coming across, and he allows the defender's momentum to bring him across Kane's line of sight. So when he's on the right, all of a sudden the defender is out of the way at the bottom left, but he doesn't strike the ball until he's actually gone across. He kind of hits the ball into the ground, but it still is taking the goalkeeper and the defender by surprise. And the next thing, the ball's in the back of the net. Um, and realistically, while Nottingham did have a good crack in this game, Stillson scored a second goal. Lovely ball by Richarlison for header for Kane, and Kane misses a penalty, which I think was his first penalty miss in like 21. In another world, while this maybe game could have been 2-2, could have been 1-1, it could have easily been 3-0 Spurs at the same time. So like it's something that when I was watching the post match interview afterwards with Conte, where they brought him out into the pitch and they were talking to them, and he was talking about they have worked on the mentality, and he's like, when you've strong minded players, you win these types of games. You eke out a way. They have a mentality to win, to battle, to contest for everything. And over a period of 90 minutes, over weeks, over months, that compounds. And it is the difference between ultimately winning and losing, and it's what Spurs have been massively accused over the years as being soft or Spursy, and they are eliminating that. And we'll see what happens next week, because sooner Son and Kane and the likes, they are going to properly click like we seen on the first day of the season, where they absolutely tore Southampton up. So when that happens, Spurs are going to be great. And to be fair, they have, other than the Espirito Santo, the short-lived run under Pochettino for years, they did have that about them where they could blow teams away. But if they can win out these games and eke out these games where they're not playing well and still come away with 1-0 wins, still come away with 2-0 wins like they have in the last 2 weeks, when they click, they're going to be a team that's going to be right up there. Another one like Arsenal, I'm not going to say the title contenders, just because when you see how good City are and what City are doing, like blowing away teams, even though they're conceding and going down twice. But still, yeah, it's looking like, for me at the moment, as we're 4 weeks in, first month through the season, looking like City at top, and then you got Spurs and Arsenal second, third, and then from there, race for four is on. But United, Liverpool, and Chelsea. So yeah, it's spicy to start the season, and it's only going to continue. We've got a full slate of games this week. I'm going to try and get videos out after the games. Also going to try and watch the games. They might be uploaded the day after. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you've made it through this far. And as always, if you like the video, if you want to subscribe, that would be great too.